Hello everybody, my name is Neil and I'm the founder of my website, which is IELTSWRITING.com. And today we'll be analyzing writing task 1 taken from Cambridge Book 15. Now let's read and analyze this task in detail. The chart below shows what anthropology graduates from one university did after finishing their undergraduate degree course. The table shows the salaries of the anthropologists in work after 5 years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so here we have destination of anthropology graduates from one university, and we've got different activities. We have full-time work, full-time postgraduate study, part-time work, unemployed, part-time work plus postgraduate study, not known. Okay, so we've got different percentages here. Also, we've got a table here which illustrates salaries of anthropology graduates after 5 years work. And we have freelance consultants, government sector, private companies, and we have different kinds of earnings. So how can we organize this task neatly? Okay, so let me show you. I'll just write sentence by sentence and I'll explain everything to you. Okay, so the first sentence, the pie chart illustrates the percentages of anthropology graduates who were involved in various activities upon graduation from university. Okay, so the first one is called pie chart, right? So we have to indicate this. So the pie chart illustrates the percentages. We have different kinds of percentages here, and for the percentages of anthropology graduates here, anthropology graduates who were involved in, which means who were involved. We are using the past simple because the situation happened in the past, in various activities, which means different activities, right? We have different kinds of activities here. Okay, upon graduation. Upon basically means after graduation from university. Remember, graduation from. Next. Now let's just look at this table, and we also have to describe it here. So the table shows the 3 employment sectors where the graduates I don't think we need to have a comma here. Okay, where the graduates pursued their career and their corresponding earnings after 5 years work. Okay, so the table shows 3 employment sectors. We have 3 employment sectors: freelance consultants, government sector, private companies, where the graduates pursued their career. So remember, pursue the career basically means establish their career, follow their career, do their career, okay? And their corresponding earnings. Okay, corresponding earnings means how much, which means how much they earned after 5 years work. Okay, so we have written our introduction. Now we need to write the second body paragraph where we need to describe general trends. Okay, so we can start something with overall. More than half of the graduates were fully employed, whereas the smallest proportion of them engaged in part-time employment while doing a postgraduate degree. Okay, so overall, more than half of the graduates were fully employed. Okay, more than half. Look at this carefully. We have 52%, which means more than half, right? More than 50%, okay, were fully employed. Here, full-time work, that means they were fully employed. Whereas we want to show the contrast, the smallest proportion, smaller, the smallest. And if we don't want to talk about the percentage, we can paraphrase it, writing the word proportion of them engaged in part-time employment while doing a postgraduate degree. Now look at this carefully. So we need to focus on the smallest proportion. So here we have part-time work plus postgraduate degree. So the idea is we need to indicate the largest percentage and the smallest percentage in our overview. Okay, next, let's move on. More specifically, a slight majority of the graduates entered full-time employment at 52%. Okay, now more specifically, try to use this keyword when you want to provide the examiner with some specific details. A slight majority of, because it's a little bit more than 50%, right? That's why I've written here a slight majority of the graduates entered full-time employment. So try to remember this collocation. You enter full-time employment or you enter part-time employment. And now I want to be more specific. You need to put a comma here, at, and then the percentage, at 52%. Okay, next. This figure is almost 10 times greater than the proportion of those who were doing a part-time job and continuing to study towards a postgraduate degree at 52% and 5% respectively. Okay, now this figure, okay, we know what kind of figure we're talking about. This 52% is almost 10 times greater, which means larger than the proportion, which means the percentage of those who are doing a part-time job and continuing to study towards a postgraduate degree at 52% and 5% respectively. So what is the difference between 52% and 5%? It's almost 10 times, okay, and therefore I've written this and here at 52% and 5% respectively. Respectively here means that the first figure belongs to the first category and the second figure belongs to the second category. Now look at this carefully. So here we have 52% and we have 5%, and I have shown this contrast in this paragraph. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, now we can also look at similar numbers here. We have 8% here, right? Which means those who were not known, those who probably didn't respond. And we also have 8% here, okay, full-time postgraduate study. Okay, we have a similar percentages and we can indicate it in the next sentence. Now, how can we do it? 8% of graduates, 8%, okay, so 8% of graduates were involved in full-time postgraduate study. Postgraduate study. Okay, now look at this. 8% of graduates were involved in full-time postgraduate study. Full-time postgraduate study, 8%, and that's what I have just written. Okay, now the next part, which is the same proportionally as the figure for those who were unable to be contacted. Okay, which is the same proportionally, right? Because we have different proportions here, 5%, 8%, and so forth, as the figure for those who were unable to be contacted. So here, not known. Why not? Because they were not able to be contacted, and therefore I have indicated this. Okay, next. Now, look at this pie chart here. We can see that the figure for those unemployed, right? So here we have 12% was higher than the percentage who were engaged in full-time postgraduate study. Okay. Yep. But lower than the percentage of those who were in part-time employment. Okay, so and we can indicate this. So let's do it. Okay, so the figure for those unemployed, 12%, was higher than that who engaged in full-time postgraduate study. Okay, now let's look at this carefully one more time. So the figure for those unemployed here, 12%, was higher than that who engaged in full-time postgraduate. So here, so 12% was higher than 8%. Okay, and that's what we've done. Let's move on. Okay, now let's move on. But lower than the percentage of those who were involved, who were in, you can just write something like part-time employment at, and we need to indicate the percentage here. So this 12% was higher than this percentage, but was lower than this percentage, right? And here we're talking about part-time work at, and then 15%. At 15%. Okay, so that's what you can do. You can always focus on one particular slice here, and you can say that the percentage of this slice is higher than another than the percentage of another slice, but lower than you can focus on another sector. Okay, so try to compare and contrast. Next, we have completed everything here. Now we need to focus on this table, and I'm going to focus only on the first column now, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, okay, we can just write something like as for the table, it can be seen that 5% of those working as freelance consultants, earned between $25,000 and $49,990. Okay, and the same was true for those whose job was in the government sector. Okay, so we want to make a smooth transition here, because now we are talking about the table, and you can use this linking device as for the table, which means now we will be talking about the table. It can be seen that 5% of those working as freelance consultants earned between $25,000 and $49,990. Just look at this carefully. Okay, so, and then I'm talking about also a similar percentage, right? The same percentage, 5%. Okay, and the same was true for those. The same was true means that it was the same percentage whose job was in the government sector. Now I can see here 5%, 5%, and 10%, right, which was twice as high. So, and I can mention this. So something like, however, in private companies, this figure was twice as high at 10%. Okay, so in private companies, this figure was twice as high. Private companies, 10%, twice as high. Okay, and now all I need to do is to look at this trend. I can see that 5, 15, 40, 40. So and then 5, 15, 30, 50, 10, 35, 25, 30. It's clear that at the end of the scale, all the percentages increased significantly, right? So we can mention this fact here. At the end, at the other end of the scale, all the percentages increased significantly. With the highest being in the government sector. At 50%, and the lowest being at private companies at 30%. So basically what we need to do here is to focus on the largest figure, being, okay, so therefore I just indicated the government sector, 50%, and then the lowest figure, private companies, 30%. Now, look at this carefully. At the other end of the scale, all the percentages, that, because we know what kind of percentages we're talking about here, increase significantly, with the highest being in the government sector at 50%. Okay, government sector 50%, and the lowest being at private companies at 30%. Okay, cool. And then we can also mention something like that. Salaries indicated were at least $100,000. Okay, salaries indicated, which means shown, because here we have $100,000 plus, and therefore salaries indicated were at least, which means the minimum, okay, $100,000. That's it. This graph is complex, and therefore we have a little bit more than 150 words. It's because it's very important to focus both on this pie chart and this graph at the same time. I hope you've learned a lot of strategies. You learned how to compare and contrast data. Okay, if you want me to help you with your IELTS preparation, with writing and speaking correction services, private lessons, or advanced video courses, please visit my website, which is IELTSWheel.com. Thank you very much.